Hey guys, new video, review impressions on this game, Hyrule Warriors for the Wii U. This game, I'll be honest, for the longest time I was thinking about skipping this game. It's Zelda mixed with Dynasty Warriors, or they're called Muso games, which is, a genre. I don't know if it's really a genre. They're like hack and slash semi strategy games that get a bad rap in terms of like reviews and critics for being repetitive. And I had played Dynasty Warriors. I don't even remember which one it was, but it was on PS2, and I remember not liking it at all, like the gameplay and just. With the Warriors games, I find a lot of like the themes of them, like either like the Chinese history theme, or you've got like the Gundam Warriors games. Like none of them have really appealed to me in that sense. And then there's the fact that the gameplay is nothing. At least I don't consider it to be anything amazing. So I've skipped all those Warriors games until this Hyrule Warriors. Now it's no secret that I'm a huge Zelda fan. I've played every game in this series. I adore this series. So when they announced this game, I was interested. I still didn't know whether I would pick this game up because I wasn't a huge fan of the Warrior style gameplay, but as it came closer to the release, I pre-ordered this, and luckily I was able to get it for 30% off. And I gotta say, before I get too into things here, if I had paid full price for this, I might have been a bit more disappointed. I don't know if this is like your enjoyment of this game. I think is going to depend on how much you enjoy either Zelda or the Warriors style games. If you're like me and then you're not too big into the Warriors style gameplay, but you really love Zelda, I'd say it's a bit harder to recommend, but I still enjoyed my time with this game. I still actually surprisingly really like this game. Not to say there aren't problems with it. I had actually quite a few problems with this game, and it's certainly not going to make me go out and get any Dynasty Warriors games in the future unless they do like another cross with like some other series I really like. But if you're a Zelda fan and a Warriors fan, this is a no-brainer for sure. But the sad thing is, though, this isn't going to go down in price. There might be some Black Friday deals on this, but it's a Nintendo game. Like, this is not going to, it's a Nintendo game and a Zelda game. I highly doubt this is going to go down in price. In fact, in a weird way, I almost think this game is going to go up in price. Maybe a weird prediction, but I kind of feel that way. But I'm glad I didn't have to pay full price for this, but I would have been maybe a bit more disappointed if it weren't for that, because I am pretty much done with this game. And it's not a game, unless like I've got a friend over for the co-op mode, I don't expect to come back to this too often, even though there's actually a lot of content here. But with introductions out of the way, let's talk about the game a bit. The story, I guess we'll start with the story. The story, honestly, I don't even think it's worth talking about. I thought the story in this game, there's a few different modes. I mean, you've got your main story mode, right, which is where the actual story is. It's called Legend mode. Maybe some people might feel differently. I know SNESmapper, he did an impressions video on this, and he liked the story. I absolutely hated it. I thought it was boring and really, really dumb. I was actually I really wanted to skip the cutscenes in this game. The story, I couldn't even really tell you what the hell it was about because I wasn't paying attention because I was so not interested. There's a new character, like an evil dark sorceress named Sia, I think it was. She's a new character added for this game. And you gotta, she's trying to get the Triforce pieces to conquer the world, and then you've got, the Hylian army, and then you kind of take on her army, and then that's about it. Some twists here and there, but it's nothing. I honestly didn't think it was that great at all. I don't know, but at the same time, even though I hated the story in this game, it's not really why I was playing this game. I didn't expect this game to have a good story. They've said too that it has nothing to do with the main Zelda timeline. This is non-canon, and I believe it because I mean this is just complete nonsense. The story in this game, but yeah, that's all I want to say. There's no real point talking about it. I don't think it's just not. It's definitely probably the weakest aspect of the game. If you're playing, if you want a good story out of this, you're not gonna. I don't think you'd find it really. I mean, have the Warriors games been known to have amazing storylines? I don't think so. I think it's pretty much the case here. But the Legend mode itself is actually really fun in terms of gameplay and other stuff, and just the Zelda fan service in general. And that's one of my favorite parts of this game, is the Zelda fan service, from the levels, the characters you unlock, the moves, some of the gameplay aspects. The Zelda Code of Paint is excellent, and is what compelled me to play this game in the first place. And as a Zelda fan, I fucking ate it up. But the story itself is, I really didn't care for it at all. So let's talk about gameplay, which is the major portion of this game. There's a lot of modes, a lot of content here to talk about. So there's the Legend mode, like I mentioned, where you've got your storyline, and there's a few things I want to say about the storyline. Like, it's all done in, like, there's this really awful narration between each mission that is just terrible. Like, the voice acting on it is absolutely terrible, and they're very boring, kind of like still cutscenes. Then you've got some really nice looking cutscenes with characters talking to each other, but like there's no voice acting in this game. It's just like a bunch of grunts and sounds characters make, and that's a big topic for a lot of people, is whether Zelda games should have voice acting. I don't think they really need voice acting, the main Zelda games, but I gotta say, with this game, it was kind of weird. It was almost felt like there should have been voice acting in this game for the characters that weren't Link. I don't know, it just kind of felt that way with the story they were telling and the presentation of the game and the cutscenes in general. So it was really weird to me. But you're going through these story cutscenes, and then you're going by mission by mission. There's like one area in the game where you can pick like 3 missions at a time, and then it'll bring you to another 3 missions. But it's generally a very linear progression where you're going through these missions. This is kind of like the main mode of the game. It probably took me like 10 hours. It's not very long, but I'm glad it was. I'm glad it wasn't too long, or else I probably would have got tired of it pretty fast. And the gameplay in general, it's weird in this game because it's repetitive, but at the same time, like, I was addicted to it for a while, especially in one of the other modes I'll talk about. But Dynasty Warriors gameplay, like, it was so long since I played a Warriors game, so there was some stuff in this game that was new to me, and it was so long that I didn't remember a lot of this stuff. But I guess I'll explain it for people that haven't really played one of these games before. And it took a little bit of getting used to, because some of the aspects are kind of weird. But you choose your character. In the Legend mode, there's some missions where you can only be Link, but you've generally got a good array of characters, and you're unlocking them as you're going through the Legend mode. So each map is pretty huge, and you've got your mini map. Basically, it's confusing at first because I've generally found the flow of the game was like, you'll have these objectives that will pop up. Your main objectives and then secondary objectives can come up. And you're trying to get through these main objectives till eventually you can like take out a boss or something at the end of these maps. You've got the enemy army all over the map, and you've got little like keeps. I call them bases, where their enemies have overtaken them. And if you go into these bases and keep killing enemies until this meter fills, where a boss, like a gate boss, will appear, a keep boss, they call it. You kill this keep boss, and then that base is yours, and it's got its own health meter, and then enemies will kind of, I believe they spawn there. There's spawn points all around the map. They have to kill like these captains to make your forces spawn. So the main point of the game is try to keep your army at like bigger than your opponents, and take out all these captains and mini bosses and do all these objectives, and kind of, sometimes you might protect some characters, you might escort some characters. Like, there's a good variety of objectives they get you to do throughout these missions, which I appreciated that. I liked that. I mean, there's a lot of hacking and slashing through the enemies. There's tons of enemies on screen, a lot of mini boss fights. And the combat itself, it has more depth than I was expecting, and it's more fun than I expected. But at the same time, it's nothing amazing or anything. I did like the Zelda like the Zelda type things that they had in this. You have like your standard like melee attacks. There's not too many combos you can unleash, but you can get more combos the more you level up. Your characters level up. And you've got like a magic meter that you can get magic, and it you know, there's like magic pots you get from like Zelda, and this magic meter fills. You press like the R button, and then you're like in a super mega mode where you do more damage, and then when the meter completely drains out, you do like this massive attack that deals a ton of damage to a bunch of enemies in your vicinity. You have your crowd control attacks, which take up like an SP meter, which that gets hot. That refills the more enemies you attack. And those attacks are great for taking out a bunch of enemies surrounding you. And it's an attack you're going to have to use constantly in this game. You're going to always have to keep an eye on that. Mini bosses and bosses are cool where they have their health meters, but they also have this like weakness meter where the more you attack them after you like they'll attack you, and if you dodge their attacks, certain attacks, they'll get into this phase where you can counter them very quickly and take out this weakness meter. And if you get that meter down and get rid of it, you do like a super attack to them, and you do a ton of damage to them. So, and it's got like that Zelda thing, right? Where in Zelda games, they had that sound effect that played whenever you were attacking their weak points, the bosses. And it plays that same sound effect for these weak points on the mini bosses and bosses in Hyrule Warriors. And I loved that. I thought that was a nice touch. And the bosses are actually they're like my favorite part of the game, but my least favorite part of the game at the same time. And you might think that makes no sense, but I mean the bosses themselves are very fun. They take them from Zelda. You might fight a King Dodongo, and there's items in this game too. I forgot to mention. You get items that you switch between with the D-pad, and you unlock as you go throughout the game. So to fight the King Dodongo, he opens his mouth. You throw bombs in it, and then he'll get paralyzed, and you attack his weakness meter. And different bosses are like that. You got to use items to kind of take advantage of their weak points, or kind of make their weak points exposed, and then keep mashing attacks at them. And I mean the combat's button mashy in this game, I won't lie, but the bosses I thought were pretty fun. The mini bosses were fun too. You got to dodge their attacks constantly. You've got a dodge meter. The enemies themselves, the AI on the enemies, I think is pretty bad. They just stand there and they don't really even do anything. But the mini bosses and bosses are where the combat is the most fun, I think. Now, where I say the bosses are my least favorite part of the game is in like how much health they have. Like the bosses in this game have way too much fucking health. Like they take forever to die, especially on the higher difficulty levels. Like it's fucking ridiculous. Like towards like the end of the game, and if your characters aren't leveled up high enough, like it takes forever. I mean, this game suffers from that, like in general, of the higher difficulties, enemy bosses do more damage and take more damage. And I fucking hate that, and it's very frustrating in this game at times. It's not as bad in the legend mode, but it's worse in the next mode that I'll talk about. But yeah, the gameplay it's fun. Yeah, it's repetitive. But there's a bit of strategy. There's more strategy to this than I thought. If you're not keeping track of things and not constantly rushing around the battlefield doing your objectives, there's a good chance you are going to fail. Dying is not something that really happens all that often. The times I've failed this game, it's always because of an objective I'm not too sure about. Like sometimes it can be a bit confusing, and like the objectives don't pop up as often as you'd like. But the gameplay, yeah, I enjoyed it throughout the legend mode, or basically just the Dynasty Warriors gameplay in general. But I mean, I gotta say the Zelda stuff definitely helped. Other than that, your characters level up and get stronger, but there's also some great RPG elements to this game, which I loved, and I think these are what kept me going and what made it not feel so repetitive after a while. So you've got this badge system where you're gathering materials on the maps from enemies and bosses, and you can use these materials to craft badges for your characters where like one badge might be like, have extra, do like weakness meters drain faster on bosses, or like higher defense against lightning attacks, things like that. There's all sorts of badges you can create to make your character stronger. I loved that aspect of the game. That was really cool. And you're gathering rupees on the battlefield, and you're spending rupees to craft these badges. You've got weapons that you can collect. You can kind of combine weapons together, and they have like different abilities that can be attached to these weapons, which I love that as well. And you can unlock different weapons for your characters through the adventure mode is where most of those are, but that was really fun too. I loved the leveling up. You have heart pieces that are on the maps that you can find in treasure chests, Usually it's like clearing out a keep, but I loved that too, collecting heart pieces for each of your characters, and you can upgrade each of your characters separate, which is awesome. I like all these RPG elements. I love. If they weren't in the game, I would like the game a lot less. I have to tell you. But I loved all that stuff. It can be a bit grindy though. If you wanted to 100% this game, I can't even imagine how long this would take. I think SNESmapper was saying it was like over 200 hours, and I believe him. Like, it would be ridiculous. If anyone's doing that, I feel sorry for you. I could never do that. Like, that would be the most tedious thing ever. But there is a lot of content in this game if you're looking for it. But so yeah, the RPG elements I loved. The Dynasty Warriors gameplay I really enjoy. It's not. Well, I shouldn't say I really enjoy it. It does get old after a while. There's a lot of frustrations. It's not the most fun ever. I can definitely see the appeal, though, more after playing this game. So yeah, that's Legend mode. After that, the next main mode is the Adventure mode, and I actually really dig the Adventure mode, almost more so than the Legend mode. It's actually pretty unique, and this is where you can tell, like, the developers, Koei Tecmo, that they're really big fans of the Zelda series. This mode has you on like a version of the original Legend of Zelda's map, a grid-based map of that, where you're moving your character on this map, and each square has like a different thing you can unlock depending on if you beat the mission there, or if you get an A rank on that mission. You might get a heart piece for one of your characters, or a new weapon. And this map is huge, like the original Legend of Zelda map. You can gather items by clearing these missions, and you can like use them on the squares to do things. So you might use a candle item to burn a tree on the map, the same tree that was there in the original Legend of Zelda, and that might unlock you another character to use if you clear the map after using that. I thought that was really cool, and you kind of progress through these squares by beating these missions, and they're not. Like, these will be very small, short objectives on like a Dynasty Warriors map. I wish there was more variety in them. There's not too much variety. Like, a few examples, there might be one, like, one of my favorite ones was this quiz one, where you had to, like, kill one of two enemies, one right after the other. It might say, like, oh, kill the enemy that's wielding a sword, and there's two enemies that are fighting you, and you gotta kill the enemy with the sword. So there's weird stuff like that, but there's also like kill 600 enemies in 10 minutes, kill 2 bosses in 10 minutes, that kind of stuff. So there's these very short goals that you have to do, and this mode is addictive in that way. I felt like every time I cleared a mission, I always wanted to do another one because you're moving through this Legend of Zelda map. Unfortunately, I'm pretty much done with it at this point. There's 4 characters that you can unlock in the adventure mode, and I did that, and now I kind of find it hard to go back to it because there's a few reasons for this. Each square is like the difficulty is determined by like a level system from level 1 up to like I don't even know what the highest is because I haven't cleared the whole map. But my biggest frustration is in this level system because basically every time you see a map that's going to be level 7, you can know that the only difference between this and the level 1 map is the fact that, oh, the bosses and enemies are going to have a shit ton of health now and do a shit ton of damage. So if your character isn't leveled up enough, and there's some missions here where you have to use a specific character, you're going to be fighting this boss forever and ever and ever, and you're not going to be able to get a high rank because you got to do it really fast. So that's where the grinding comes in, and that's where that irritating, HP problem rears its ugly head again. And another annoying thing is to progress through this map, to progress from one square to the next, a lot of times you have to get an A rank. And getting an A rank in this is really fucking hard to do. So it's hard to progress. I wouldn't mind it if you had to get A rankings to get all the weapons and heart pieces, which for the most part you do. But to have to actually get an A rank to progress through this map was very annoying. And I'm at the point where almost every mission I have left to do is like one where you either have to A rank something, or it's like a level 7, level 8 mission where bosses and enemies have so much health that I can't possibly defeat them in time or before they kill me because they do so much damage to me. So I'm at the point where I don't really feel like playing anymore, which is a shame because the mode in general I think is really fun and addictive for a while, and it's unique. It's a unique mode. and almost it's almost like the bite-sized chunks as opposed to the main Warriors gameplay, because the main missions in Legend mode can take a while to finish, where these are really short and quick. So yeah, it's a cool mode. I wish it was better. It could have been better, I think. Other modes, you've got a free mode where you can tackle any of the Legend mode missions with any character you want. You've got a challenge mode, which I didn't really care for too much because it was, it's your general challenge mode. That's self-explanatory. I've never been into those kind of modes in games. Wasn't really into it here. And then that's about it. That's all there is. But I mean, the adventure mode is absolutely huge. Like, there's so much content there that would last you for a long time, especially if you want to get the 100%. I guess the only other thing to mention about the gameplay is the co-op mode, which I played through most of the Legend mode with my brother and some of the adventure mode. Like, all the modes are playable co-op, which is awesome. And the co-op is generally fun, but it's flawed at the same time. First off, I do like how, like, it's not split screen. I don't know how they would even do split screen, but one player plays on the gamepad and one player plays on the TV screen, which is cool. I wish more Wii U games did this. I don't know why they don't. But for some strange fucking reason, I don't even know, like, why it's like this. The TV screen, the person that's playing on the TV screen, the resolution is shit. Like, it's everything's got like these really jagged lines around it, and the game looks ugly as fuck when you're playing co-op. It looks pretty good by yourself, but as soon as you start playing co-op, the resolution is garbage, and it really detracts from the game, I think. And then the frame rate. The frame rate is generally, I think, pretty solid in the single player. In co-op, it just takes a shit. Like, we're talking like really low frame rate dips. And enemies, it seems like there's less enemies on screen as well, which is, that's a shame. The co-op is still playable, it's still fun, but again, like with the adventure mode, it could have been a lot better, I think, which is unfortunate. But so yeah, that about covers it in gameplay, in terms of gameplay. Visuals, like I mentioned before, I think it's actually a pretty good looking game. I other than the frame rate problems, I like the character models. The cutscenes look fantastic. And I like the the nostalgic charm that the adventure mode has, but again, it's a shame about that frame rate, and it does dip sometimes when you're playing by yourself. I will mention, audio wise, the voice acting, like I said before, it's like non-existent, and I wish it was kind of in the game. The music on the other hand is fantastic. I fucking love the music. A lot of classic Zelda tunes here, but they're all done in like a metal remix kind of way, where they're all almost like metal-oriented remixes of classic Zelda tunes with like guitar solos and really rapid-fire guitar riffs. It's fantastic. You've got like even like the new songs in here that aren't from previous Zelda games are great. The one that plays in the Twilight Princess maps, I love. It's like really catchy and upbeat. There's nothing to complain about with the music. I think they did a really great job actually with the music in the game. But yeah, that about covers it. Yeah, Hyrule Warriors. It's, I think if you're a big fan of Zelda and Hyrule Warriors, recommending this is kind of tough because it depends on what kind of player you are. If you're a huge Zelda fan and like lukewarm on Dynasty Warriors, I'd say it's worth the pickup. Like, I put in about 30 hours at this point. Like I said before, because of my problems with the adventure mode, I don't think I'll go back to it unless I do like some co-op stuff. But it's definitely this is a good surprise, I think, overall this year. Whether it will make my top 10, I'm not sure. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed my time with it. Because I think it is weird, like, who to recommend this to. And it is a shame that I don't think it's going to go down in price unless there's some Black Friday deal. But if you can find it on Black Friday for like a reduced price, I definitely think it's worth it. The only way I'd say it's not is if you hate Zelda or you hate Dynasty Warriors, like absolutely despise either of them, then I'd say it's probably not worth purchasing. But as for myself, yeah, I had a good time with it, and I'm glad I'm glad I got it. But yeah, that's my review impressions of that. Yeah, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.